Okay, let me just
You sound good.
I'm just going to shut off the Coral node because that sucks.
Awesome.
Things to stutter again like they were last time.
Okay, cool. You do what you need to do. I'm going to introduce us. Last week, we started pulling back the curtain on external systems, right? Cults, the religions, groupthink. I would say the architecture of control. Those structures, and we put them under the category of cults. And then I pulled back the curtain specifically on religion that I have been involved in. I'll say religions, and we discussed the topic of Scientology. I think it's worth having a view of an understanding of any cult, that I think we're looking at work as individuals that we want to be moving towards expansion, and anything that is going to constrain you is probably something that you want to investigate further rather than just take everything at face value. And this discussion that I'm having with Dennis is something I wanted to take a little deeper. So today we're going to dive into another layer that I think is super important, and that is the actual physical body, the emotional body, the mental body. I'm not going to say the spiritual body at this point, because I think just the body and the mind right now are the battlefield that folks are there. That's where the war is being played out, because it's showing up in the physical, in our food and pharma, in our environments. And then as a result of our physical bodies being so burdened and the mental aspects, our emotions then are in a state of constant and chronic, even fear, terror. The kinds of posts that I'm seeing from people who have been opinion leaders and incredibly smart, caring coaches, that they're just in terror. And I don't know if that's their response to try and get more clients or something. It's also that it just seems that their energy is coming from a place of terror and fear. And that, my friends, it's so interesting, because I was looking at this when my friend Matt posted something about this, how he's just so upset about the industry of self-help and wellness and high performance, and how it seemed like he was using it as a strategy, of course, to get clients and to launch a new program. But here's the thing that I realized. Your outrage, your emotional responses, your fear, all of this, it's actually someone else's strategy. And that's something that's been on my mind. And I think we're...
You there? Stefana?
I just got lost there. Am I there?
Okay, sorry. Must be your... I've cleaned up my system so that the bandwidth is good and the hardware acceleration is working. Now yours is cutting out.
Yeah, so what I was saying is this concept where there is others who will use a strategy. They're using this strategy to put you in fear. Cults do this. We talked about it last week, how they're doing this. They not only prey on it and use it, but they create it. And that's the thing that we have to keep in mind, is that your emotions and your outrage and your reactions are actually someone else's strategy. And I think that is an important piece that we need to talk about. And Dennis is my data man, so he's going to give us the statistics. But what I want to do is, first, I want to actually name this emotion, because what we've been doing, Dennis and I have been, I will say, kind of the great untraining, because there's so much mind control and so much information out there in both the good, the white hats, and the black hats, the red pills, all of that. But what happens is that if we go into all of this, everything's a catastrophe. And I don't want to say that Mark Passio does everything as a catastrophe, but that's his energy that comes across. I think that doesn't actually validate what we're feeling. Instead, it then gives us more frenzy.
Right.
And so I love doing, I don't call it shadow work. I just call it working in. I work out and I work in. And Mark Passio and many, Jungian, all the work around shadow work, fine, call it what you need, but we don't need to catastrophize it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing that I wanted to talk about and see if I can get your information data-wise is in terms of false narratives. We can put, I had some response back on what we had said with regards to cults. And so I'm going to remove the word cults and religion and all of that because that triggers things for people. So I'm just going to say false narratives. Okay. So if we looked across the span of centuries, even, across time, and we look at these false narratives, I would really like to know which have caused the most harm, the most damage to the human psyche, to the human capacity to the actual health and freedom of humanity. And as I say human, because I know words, human, based on the Black's Law, human means monster or was defined as monster. I don't know if that's true.
Hue is color. Hue, man.
So I want you to take that piece right there, that concept, this false narrative, what's caused the most damage to our health, to our freedom, to our well-being, to our capability as, at the end of the day, I believe we're spiritual beings, but our capability, if we know how much capacity we have had over the generations, over millennium, and more because of the Gnostic, the Christos, the Sophia Christos, the wisdom and the beauty and all of that. So I'm going to send it over to you, and any data that you can back up, any of that, I'd love to know.
Data? I'm not sure what you mean. Just sort of from my studies, what's happened to the Gnostics early. You mean that kind of thing?
And any that you have observed. I mean, you've done more than the Gnostics. You've studied more than the Gnostics, and you've gone deep on them. So I'm curious across the board, just looking at the false narratives and what can uncover that, or what was covered up so deeply, and by what. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because of my own sort of struggles with, early, like I mentioned last time, Jehovah's Witnesses, Bible students, and it was sort of deep in my subconscious. There's something here, but I can't make any sense of it. And there's so many denominations of Christianity. Everyone's got a different opinion. It's like that's obviously, wasn't satisfying. So in my later years now, for the last few years, I've studied the book by John Lamb Lash, Not in His Image. He's studied this stuff extensively for many decades of his life, studying the early Gnostics. So I leveraged the work of these people. I do have the Nag Hammadi document scriptures. They found those in 1945, and then they translated them decades later. They became available probably just before I was born, but I was never really, aware of them. And a lot of people are still not aware, right? But he traces that, and there's, historical documents going back to what was going on in the first century, right? I'm convinced, that there was an actual Jesus. A lot of embellishments, though, and things added to what he said and did. There's lots of different communities back in the first century that were forming. Gnostic sects, what was becoming the Orthodox sects. There was Valentinian Gnostics, Sethian Gnostics. There was different groups, Proto-Orthodox. There was Marcionites. There was a group that they called themselves, based on this guy Marcion. They had similar beliefs to the Gnostics.
So let's do this again, because I think that this word is really important, and it's so simple. It's right there in the word. Gnostics, knowledge, gnosis.
Yes.
So instead of, because it's GNOS, right? But that's still coming from the root of knowledge, folks.
Right.
Knowledge.
That confuses people, because it's
yes, it does confuse. And then we start thinking, Gnostic is a religion. No. It's just knowledge. It's just knowledge. Just like a cult is. Nope. It's just hidden.
Special kind of knowledge, though.
Right.
Personally, from your personal experience, your personal divine connection, your intuition developing, and you having paranormal experiences and these kind of things that tend to wake people up. Then you go searching, what the hell's going on, right? like you bending your spoon. There was a gnosis, some sort of personal divine thing that you're able to do once apparently and can't reproduce it. But it makes you think and you go searching. There's something more going on here in life. Or the last video I mentioned, Charles Fort, a big kind of asteroid coming down, hitting the earth in slow motion. Those people got to walk away and think, what the heck is reality? It's not what they're telling us. If that was real, right? And they probably went and searched and they came to their own gnosis and other subsequent experiences. This is sort of what was going on in the first century. I believe Jesus was a Gnostic, said some amazing things, inspired people. It started a movement. And by the third century or so, 325 AD, Constantine made a religion out of it, right? Christianity, the official state religion. And then in 367, one of the bishops of Rome declared Gnostic writings heresy, stamped them out, kill them all. They eventually got hunted down, killed, their writings destroyed. And that's why the monks defied Rome and hid the Gnostic writings in a cave in Egypt, and was found later, 1945, in cave in Qumran, I think it was. So we know a little bit more of what's going on, because before that, we just had like early church fathers. Irenaeus in 180 AD writes about on heresies, dissing the Gnostics. So we know they existed, because their enemies are talking. The state forming religion was talking about them, right? But if all we have is what the enemies say of it, that's circumspect, right? So until we actually had the writings, now they're very deep cosmologies. They're very complex, confusing. I've read some of them, but they're as difficult or even more difficult to understand than the Bible or any other ancient text. They had a deep way of thinking, a deep cosmology, right? It's not just some simple crazy sect. Let's go wipe them out. That was the excuse, right? But if you take the time to read them, or try to, you'll see it's much more deep.
So then in that, we're not going to put that the Gnostics is a specific body of work. There's multiple pieces to that. There's multiple bodies of knowledge there. But what has been, in your view, the most significant in the damage and the harm that it's done in terms of these false narratives?
The Gnostics were teaching you have a divine spark. Well, they did differentiate between Hylics, at least some of them, right? There were lots of different sects, right? But not all the Gnostics were unified and believing in the Hylics, right? What we would call NPCs today. And then the psychics, sort of in between, but they can't hold it. Pneumatics, they really fully connect to the divine spark, are pretty much always being led by the spirit kind of thing, right? So there was a lot of diverse beliefs back then as well, right? But primarily they hold to the idea of gnosis, your personal divine connection. You don't need a state-run religion and bishops or outward sacraments. You can go within or go without. Go within, they would have consciousness technologies and meditations that would teach you how to go in and connect with the divine within. And of course, the state religion, state control power doesn't like that. They can't, sell you indulgences and things. We own what's going to happen to you after death. You got to come to us. They had to wipe them out because, if it was a burgeoning movement, people connecting within. Well, we can't have that. We got to have you subservient to the centralized control power. That's why they went and wiped them out. And then there was it went underground 1,000 years later, about 1200, 1300 AD in France. The Gnostic sect, the Cathars, started to reform, and again spreading across, and eventually the Pope, well-established church power at that time, well back in Rome days too, eventually went and did the same thing, wiped them all out, destroyed the writings, burned them all at the stake. Repeating pattern 1,000 years later.
So then the false narrative that you're talking about,
go within.
But that's not the false narrative. That's the key piece. That's the truth.
That's the truth. That's
anything that was trying to annihilate that is the false narrative. So then that could be lumped into anything, every religion, every state, so, I mean, okay. That makes sense. And I will agree with that for sure. That, it's interesting though, even in Christianity today, isn't it, that the kingdom is within? I mean, that's a fundamental belief. And yet I don't know that that's practiced.
No, because there's so many different divergent.
Because they have to go to church or they watch it on TV and they make sure they don't miss their minister because he says something so profound. But the most important and profound thing is shutting the F up and getting quiet and going within. And no one can do that. No one wants to do it because
I'm sure in every church there are some who quietly do that within, but they don't shake the tree too much, because the centralized authority, even with every church or denomination, you ask too many questions, as you know, with Scientology, you're shown the door. Okay, you're a disruptive influence. Even in the religion called government. They've got a thing called disturbing the peace. The police will come and escort you out of some public place. You're disturbing the peace. Well, they can do this. They do the same in church. You're disturbing our nice little comfortable belief systems. Out you go. Out you go. You're showing the door, right? Too many questions. We don't like that here. Get out.
Yeah. And so then to me, that now ends up where we no longer are even connecting to what I talk about in the Stay Sane book, the signal. Our signal is gone because we're so used to overriding it to another authority, right?
Yeah.
And all the work that I do is about rekindling us being able to lead ourselves first from our thoughts, and I didn't even know that I was doing this. The kingdom is within, because I had it completely backwards, but I knew the only answer that I could fully trust was the one that was from within.
Yeah.
But it took me a long time to unravel that overriding that signal. And that's what's really interesting. I really hope that, that one, I want to name this, that because I don't think anyone is not experiencing this confusion and the strategy that they're using to manipulate our emotions. They're manipulating our bodies from the chemicals in the air to the chemicals in our food to pharma to, right? So our physiology, our biology has been completely under attack. And then as our minds were being gaslit, we don't even know what's truth. And we do know, but we've, right? We do know. And that is where the emotional piece is so, well, to me, this goes into the Sophia Christos, because this is that gnosis, that gnosis that we should have been trusting, but we have lost the trust, right? And that is the strategy they are using. And when I say they, it's those that are the states, for however long from the beginning. You mentioned so many of the different, whether it was Rome or whether it was the different sects that took over to replace that or to supplant that, to say, no, forget that signal. You don't have that signal. Let's cut that off, right? And so we've lost that ability. No, I don't think so. We've definitely, that ability will never be lost. And that's the good news. That's the good news. It will never be lost. And you don't have to buy a book or do a course or to find it. You just need to get quiet, and you just need to tap back into, get rid of the interference for sure. And then anchor in the truth, not anchor in the lies. Because okay. Really interesting. What do you think with regards to when I say that the battlefield has been in our minds, has been our bodies? And as you were telling the stories of the ancients and then coming forward, there may have been different battles that they were going through. So I don't know that it was through their bodies, right? Were they poisoned the way we are poisoned today? Mentally, physically, were they?
Well,
what was the battle?
Well, there's so many different theories, and I always like in studying history, I always hold it loosely in my mind, because I know the victors write the history books, and none of us can go back in time and know exactly what happened. And we have all the kind of theories, right? Even with the Gnostics and what we've discovered. If we are in a simulation of some sort, when did that simulation actually begin? And maybe the Nag Hammadi didn't exist 10 years ago, but because I'm starting to waken up, I'm searching. The code was rewritten, memories rewritten, Mandela style effect, and suddenly they're here. I'm studying them. You've heard of them.
So let's go a little deeper on the simulation. Tell me more about simulation. What is that? Define that. Describe it.
Well, a lot of people talk about that idea, the literal idea of the Matrix. We're in a simulation of some sort, a simulation of consciousness, right? And so when did the simulation actually fire up? I don't believe the nonsense anymore that just some singularity, Big Bang explosion, and random unthinking processes over billions of years bring complex humans into existence. This is not nonsense, right? But it's the story the system perpetuates, and you must comply or you lose your funding. You're not going to be taken serious as a professor. You're not going to get a teaching job or anything. You got to put it in that framework, because the ones who control education system and the money system say, you're out of here if you don't comply. Same sort of thing, same sort of centralized control. Comply with the narrative, whether it's church or government or whatever it is, or you're out of here. That's how they burn you at the stake these days. Censor
Yeah.
you, make you go away. Don't fund
Okay.
you.
Right. Same playbook for sure. You're right. Okay. So I want to understand this simulation a little bit more. Of course, the allegory with the Matrix is an excellent allegory,
Yeah.
but when you say simulation, I think of the holographic, the holodeck, these
Sure.
kinds of things, that it's just being played out. So whose mind is it being played out in? And yeah, I'll ask that question. Whose mind is it being played out in? Is it ours? Are we all collectively playing this out? And so that this is a collective holodeck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what the ancient mystics, apparently from the Vedas, the Advaita Vedanta, all the Eastern religions, is one consciousness experiencing through many different windows, like one fiery consciousness within a huge mansion with 8 billion windows, all looking out different windows, having a bit of a different viewpoint, but it's the same unity consciousness. We were talking like last time about how we don't think we're all one anymore, because it's hard to see, because we're at that one, at that level. If you are part of that fire, if you have a divine spark fire within. I don't believe all do. I just can't quite fathom some of the things people are able to do. They're just like total energy projections. But then are they being projected off the minds of the one unity consciousness? It gets complicated, lots of different frameworks and paradigms. But if we accept that that's true, there's one consciousness, right? Split into different divine sparks in humans, different energy components around the body. You have different experiences, different mind experiences, and different body, different genetics. But at that fundamental level, which we can't fully access right now, we're one at that level.
I would say, where's the evidence of that? Because I at this stage, and really just having the conversation with Ryder, where's the evidence? There is no evidence. It's completely fabricated, I think, at this point. Because now I'm starting to question even the things that were fundamental, and I will question them every single day now, because
but then you have to this is the way I think anyway, right? Evidence. Okay, yeah, I used to be very left brain. Prove it. I want to see a scientific experiment, but not all truth can be proven through a scientific experiment.
I don't mean it left brain wise.
Okay.
But there is evidence. A signal for me is an evidence. It's evidence.
That's an intuition hit. That's the truth. Yes.
Right. And there is a resonance.
Yes.
This thing with regards to it being a simulation, there seems to be some part of it true, but it's not fully.
Right.
And it's the same with we're all one. There's a little bit of truth to it, but it's not, there's something, you know what I mean? So I don't mean the left brain, let's go and do a science experiment. And besides, the way I understood science is you keep asking the question until you no longer have questions. There are no more questions. And this is only, what this is doing is having us have so many more questions. With every answer, we get more questions. So to me, we need to follow the evidence trail. Where does it actually lead? And right now, to me, this is just beginning, right? This is just beginning on this trail. And I'm sure today I can't even fathom where we'll be if we stay on this evidence trail. Where does this lead? And because you have so much data, and I've been scanning through some of the work that you've been doing with regards to bringing it all together and looking at, so far I haven't seen anything that's factual, right? It's someone's opinion over an opinion over an opinion. And that's fine, because this is my opinion as well. It's my opinion, literally, that our emotions are being used as a strategy, right? The same thing with our body. We know that. I mean, to me, this is what is required now for us to lead ourselves. And the more we can, I guess it is to be awake, but it's interesting because I use the 4 powerhouses. And this is what I teach when I work with my clients. I start them with their physical powerhouse, because this is what's tangible. They're tapping into their physical powerhouse. We use Qigong and we get the centering exercises, core, right? Which is Qigong, which is Tai Chi, which is energy. There isn't necessarily evidence of Qi scientifically. And yet for me, That's the one thing that if I got rid of anything else, I mean, I could get rid of everything else and I would keep Qigong because I understand it. And
I
then,
would say there is proof for what you call qigong, whatever, the power of the mind, placebo effect, even
well, it's
testing
not
drugs.
just the mind. Qigong is not just the mind.
But the mind is
Right?
powerful enough to direct those energies
Very
and do
powerful,
things.
but it's different than the mind in the way we know it. This waking mental piece, right? So the second powerhouse that we get into is the mental, but we have to remember mentalism is not the same as the mind, because our ability to focus our mental energy is different than our mind. Because our mind, especially knowing that the subconscious, like a computer, for example,
Right.
if our computer has a hard drive, and you're all about computers, so you understand this, if you're running the wrong program, if your hardware is damaged or you have old, outdated hardware, it's going to be really hard for you to upgrade your software. It's going to really be hard to upgrade your programming. And you may not ever be able to upgrade your programming if the physical pieces are not there. So to me, that physical, the biological, and the mental powerhouse, being able to tap back into that and understand that approximately 95% of our daily life is from a program that's running in, we'll call it the subconscious, right? Because that's the name that's used for subconscious, below our conscious level.
Right.
But it's really the program that's very conscious and operating without fail, this program. So that's where I'm really curious, and we can talk more about this regards to, I think you mentioned it with regards to the 3 triggers or 3 reasons why people, especially intelligent people, get into this or get hijacked with regards to false
That's where
narratives.
the books in my friend Elena was talking about that intelligent people go to university, and that's why they fall for cults, because you get more brainwashing and more intense level after post-secondary, after high school. You go to university like I did, it's just no time to think, just do what you're told, obey the professor, get everything done, and just absorb all that programming and stress that teaches you. Just that's a powerful brainwashing effect right there. Is she in the chat? She said she might have come, but I guess not.
Didn't see any chats come in.
So if right out of high school, you're someone who never did good in high school and you're autodidactic, you're always curious, asking questions, you leave high school and you just start self-learning, you become way better than someone just out of university.
I think that is huge.
Smarter.
And I wish there's so many people that don't get that. There's still this game. There's still the fear. There's still the tribal identity, this tribal thing with college. In fact, I was just having a discussion with my younger son about this, where going to college and having the parties and drinking and meeting people and all of these conversations, that's all tribal, right? That's all the tribal identity of partying and that kind of thing, or even the moral outrage. I mean, think about how much, how many like, okay, so I'll use cult for that, but all the little tribes within the college, right? The universities that have their little tribe and their little this and little, right? And all of them against each other. And then they have moral outrage against this and against that. And it's like a little microcosm of the macrocosm. And it's just not seen. It's like, how is that still even something that is a reality as we come through this, especially because, well, I have to say it as well, because Scientology, I paid for it. I handed over my credit cards. I handed over my cash. I handed over my hard-earned money.
Well, you were a very smart
and over and over.
lady. What made you fall for it, being that you're smart and intelligent? I'll put that back.
Because I believed. I believed the lie. I believed the lie that I was not worthy, that I didn't. I believed the Gnostic lie. That I believed exactly the false narrative that the Gnostics had tried to knock on the door of people and say, hey, you have a direct line. You have the truth within you. Instead, right? So I went right in with the whole following along with
you went against
false narrative.
Without knowing it, you went against the Gnostic thing of go within, find your own connection to the divine within.
Correct. I bought 100% into the false narrative. It just had a different label on it, and multiple labels.
Ron Hubbard was the inspired prophet, and just
correct. Well, it wasn't so much Hubbard. I didn't have a lot of affinity for him, but I believed in my father. I believed in my dad, and I believed in what,
that's powerful influence.
you know, and so I think that that is also a piece of it, is that we have these leaders that we believe in, whether it's in our family, whether it's in our universities, whether it's in our countries, whether it's in our towns, whether it's in, right? We have these beliefs in these leaders that are outside of ourselves, and coming back to leading ourselves first, leading our thoughts, leading what we do and the
Lead
actions.
yourself stronger, longer.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And more, I'm just like, wow, that's my practice every day. I have to practice it because believe me, I mean, especially in this industry where I went from everything being in person to now everything is virtual. This is not my forte. This is not my expertise. This isn't something I would want to, but if, and I have been led down multiple trails, and I've bought into the false narratives on how to market, how to do this, how to sell. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do that, follow a niche, find this, and it creates more constraint and chaos instead of expansion of a very simple thing that I want to do. And I'm sure there's so many people that have simple things that they want to do to create an impact, a positive impact, right? For themselves, for their families, for others. And when they cannot. Whoops.
Are you there?
Yep.
We cut out there for a while. I don't know if you heard me. I was trying to get your attention. I went to the live stream. I saw you there. It's like you didn't notice me.
You were there. I was looking at you, but I didn't. Your screen must have frozen.
Mine didn't. From my point of view, yours frozen. I'm like, what's going on? I've got mine set up nice. The internet bandwidth is good.
Well, hopefully you were sitting there having a conversation, but I am not sure what's going on with my stream.
Everything's nice and smooth. 66, 67 degrees Celsius. CPU 30%. Hardware acceleration 60.
I don't even know how to check those numbers. You should let me know how to check those numbers, because
it's all great on my side this time.
Is it? Okay, cool. So let's look at a couple of other things that I wanted to ask you about. And you said your friend was gonna potentially visit.
Check the live stream. She said she on the live stream. Check.
I don't see her on that live stream, but you can just let her know if she wants to put a chat, because I'm interested, especially with regards to the triggers of why we follow the false narratives, and to see if we can uncover a little bit more.
It's an individual thing, I'd say.
It is an individual thing. I agree 100%.
Your dad was a powerful influence. All parents are a powerful influence on their kids. You wanted to believe he was tied into the truth, so you followed his path. You believed and trusted him, and it was working for you for a while until he died, and then you started tumbling. How many years did it take for you to say you were totally out of it? 5, 10 years or longer, or what? I'm just curious.
A couple, 3. It took me a while. It was a significant process to understand. And then you don't leave the organization. You don't, right? There's no way I would have done it like as an open thing. And I have dear friends that I care deeply about. And there are many people in the organization that have been declared a suppressive person, and they're essentially what you would say evil, and you never are allowed to talk to them. It's psychopathic. It's definitely a psychotic type of. It's delusional and very strange. I would say the best book that would be worth your time reading is Ron Miscavige. He wrote the book Ruthless, and he wrote it about his son. And that is the most truth. And it provided so much relief for me, because I thought, just like with the sexual abuse, I thought I was the only one. I thought it was my fault. It's the same thing. When you leave something, it's like, you think it's your fault and you think you're the only one. That is the biggest lie perpetuated. And it is a strategy that is used through the false narratives to make you think, and it goes back to the tribal piece, to make you think that it's your fault and you're alone, so all of it's connected in that manipulated, it's a strategic manipulation, I would say. Wouldn't you agree that it's a strategic piece? And if it goes back to, well, the Gnostics, very, very simple. They trusted themselves. They
They learn
trusted
to,
in
yeah.
themselves, and they what?
They learn to. It's not something we're necessarily all born with. And even the Cathar movement came out of another kind of underground Gnostic sect that survived underground for centuries. I think it was called the Bogomils, and they influenced the Cathars, and they started spreading. You know, it'd be interesting to see if something happens again. The Nag Hammadi's been discovered. People are talking about it. Maybe another 50 years, 100 years, assuming we're still here, or humanity in general is still here. It might happen again. Time to go wipe them out. Call them whatever. The government's label them whatever, and go wipe them out with some excuse, right?
So I have a question with current times. If you have any knowledge or understanding of what's happening with regards to these folks that get offed or murdered, all of a sudden they're there and then they're not there.
The ones talking about UFOs and all that, the whistleblowers you're talking about?
Well, him, but I've seen in multiple areas, they just, the next thing you know, they're murdered, or there's symbolism. I just started reading this book by Manly P. Hall on symbols, etc. And there are some pieces on this. And right now it's expansive for me instead of creating another box for me to go in. So I'm continuing to read it. And I don't know if it's worth continuing on. I'm curious. What do you take on there?
Based on my research of the apparent past, I question everything now, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility. They're selectively, the controllers, picking people off who they know 50, 100 years from now, where they want things to go. Well, we can't have this guy with his too much scientific knowledge. Let's get rid of him. Oh, this one, he's had too much in-depth UFO knowledge. He's credible. Yeah, we'll give him a fast-acting cancer. Boom, he's gone. I mean, they've got so many tech ways now to do so much whack. And there's nowhere you can hide on this earth now. They can catch you with a heartbeat from a satellite and know where you are.
So that's something I want to talk about as well. You said that they can catch you with a heartbeat. They can catch your heartbeat. What does that mean? How do you know that? Where's the evidence?
It's just a story again I heard, but I have no reason to doubt it. There's some guy lost in some mountains, and they were able to find him, pinpoint him by his heart, the biometric heartbeat, specific kind of pattern rhythm from a satellite. They could detect where he was and went and got him. So it is a good technology for your good, to keep you safe, to protect you and find you if we need you, for the loving reasons of saving your life, right? It's all good. It's always good reasons for the technology. It can never go bad. It can never be used for anything wrong.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and then again, like you said, it's the same playbook, and they'll use and manipulate your emotions, good or bad, right? They're going to manipulate your emotions so that the manipulation of your emotions works the same whether it's in a cult or whether it's in a marriage or on the nightly news, right? It's the same playbook. Sure. It's just a different stage.
Scale, on a mass scale, the trauma-based mind control, the wars going on, World War III, there's going to be a financial crisis. However they do it, they herd people these ways, makes you more compliant. It gets you at that psychic and body level, mind and body level. They attack there because ultimately I don't think they can touch what the pneumatic level, what the Gnostics would call spirit. Pneumatic. When you become a pneumatic, you're sensing that spirit and being led by your higher self all the time. That one unity consciousness, and they can't really, mess with you.
Well, that's what I call the signal, right? The signal is always there. Yeah. The problem is we have literally been trained to call it anxiety or suppress it, or right? Yeah. But the signal's always been
there. Or to drug it down. Yeah.
Drug it.
Or you're crazy. You can force feed you some antipsychotics, and that just destroys the brain, so you don't feel the connection. And
Exactly. Well, let me check the chat again. Let me see if she's popped in. And then, nope, I don't see her.
It's about just being, right? A human being, not a human doing or a human having. What you do, what you have, your bank account.
Well, you saying a human being.
Yes.
After you just said it's a hue, I don't know that we even need that. It's just
man or woman
right?
being. That's
so
just a common phrase, but yeah.
Yeah. I just hesitate every time I see that human because because of that word.
Not saying a black man.
The monster, and right. But why? Do you know anything about that word with regards to?
The word they use in law. Color of law means just fake, made up stuff. It's colored. It's not solid, true, black and white. It's shades of manipulation and fakeness.
I would love to know and understand more of that in another time, I'm sure. But so let's talk about what we can do in the future, because I think that this is totally worth having discussions and pulling these through. I think that this is, I think these conversations are important to have. I would definitely love to have them with where maybe we even do a data dump where we're just like sharing specific data that we have, put the resources in there because you have such a body of work already documented on your websites, put that in there, attach it to it and say, this is where I'd go to look at this. And then we can do like a Q&A
Sure.
discussion, not necessarily debate, but a discussion. And then I would say if we could open it up to live chat and bring someone on, that would be interesting if they'd be willing to. I think StreamYard does a better job of it. I don't know. I'm not that familiar with these yet. So I'm going to do some research over the next month and figure out what are the better modalities.
This one's fine for me now. I've set it up for Restream or whatever you use, StreamYard. My system can handle it all now.
So I think StreamYard, so like, for example, if the third person popped in here, then we would be split as a third screen.
Sure.
I don't know exactly how that works, but it would be interesting. And I would love to
Whoever
see how
clicks
that
on
would
the
be.
link, the restart link can jump in. Yeah.
Okay.
But,
okay, cool. Yeah. Interesting stuff. I think this whole piece around our emotions being used as a strategy to manipulate our physical body,
and did they have secret technology centuries or thousands of years ago to manipulate the mass consciousness with what we call now Wi-Fi? We can your common person can get a device and see the Wi-Fi in the air. Did they have that centuries, thousands of years ago? We just didn't know. They're still using that secretly. I don't know. These are the questions I ask myself. If it's true, we've had high technology for thousands of years. We can't even reproduce. Can't even create pyramids. So for people to say, "Oh, that was just humans with their muscles," come on. They had technology. They did amazing things. We can't even do today. Maybe they've been secretly underground or up in satellites messing with us for thousands of years. Or interdimensional entities, as David Icke might say, literal reptilians, brasting that Wi-Fi from another dimension. And like your Wi-Fi comes in and spits out onto your computer, that becomes what you spit out on the screen as to what your five senses detect, right? I mean, we're in our own kind of the simulation argument, right? I'm in my own simulated reality right now. I'm not seeing you. I'm seeing a simulation of you, which I trust is fairly accurate. But with technology, I could click a button and suddenly my voice changes. And I'm talking really high. I'm talking like Latka. Even though I'm talking my regular voice, it can be warped by the AI program behind the scenes to present a different look. I could look like Tom Cruise and using my voice and whatever, right? So many wacky things now. In your reality, you're seeing something that's not totally accurate representation of me.
Yeah, but I always have to look at, because of the work that I do, and I am the behind the scenes with those high level, high performing leaders, performers, etc. I get to see what's going on behind closed doors in their kitchen, in their bathroom. And there's only so much of this performance, this facade that can be handled. There's only so much, I don't even like to use bandwidth, but capacity when you're so disconnected. The more you're disconnected. And that's the one thing that is now, I feel like almost this is okay. I'll just say because it's become my superpower, because I can now see it so instantly with someone. I can help that much faster. But here's the thing I found out. If they're not ready and I'm coming at full force with 100% and they can only receive 1%, then not only is it a waste for me and it's depleting me, but it's now giving them something that's overwhelming them. And it's changed how my perceptions on how I can deliver, how I can serve.
Right.
It's really, really interesting. We live in such a phenomenal time.
Yeah.
If we can stay sane.
Yeah.
Right. We can tap into our true signal, and that is what it is. It's right there. Tap into your signal, know that signal, stop overwriting it, anchor into it.
The Gnostic way.
Neutral.
Kind of naturally doing it for a long time with your, signal, anchor, neutralize, execute. You put it in formal words, but it sounds like you were doing it for quite a while in your own way, inwardly.
But I had to have a left brain way I had to have a way to repeat it that I could check a checklist because and still have I'm still a checklist person, because that is the way I can prove, that's the evidence that I need, that I've taken myself from point A to point B, which is interesting because that's not native of how I operate. When I am at my best, I don't need any of that. But when I come back down into this physical universe and have to deal with, okay, now I have to, right? Because most of the time I'm like not here. Definitely before I had children, I mostly was free, right? And I don't want to say I wasn't necessarily free, but I detached from the body early on because the sexual abuse, the body wasn't safe. So I detached. And then I learned how to detach in a healthy way for myself. It was a bypass. It was totally a bypass of the signal. But I think that this is, we go through these things and we figure out, and then I had to come back in to lead and learn. And that's, the formula that I told you with regards to Scientology, 88008. There are, like you said, how many religions came and destroyed this one fundamental wisdom, is that the answers are for you to seek and find within yourself.
Seek and you'll find. Yeah. A lot of those phrases are just recognizable out of the Bible because our Western culture is so inundated with it, right? The kingdom of God is within you. Sure. But the Gnostics also said it's without as well.
Yes. And so there's the beautiful analogy of Star Wars, the Force, the universe. We are one, we're in the universe is in us. Yeah. Yeah. Well, very, very interesting.
My technological analogy is true. Like I'm seeing a simulation of you, and everything my five senses detect is a simulation. I'm running my own computer node on the network, and everything that's spit on my computer screen is what is my universe. But it can be altered behind the scenes by complex AI technology to intercept a signal that you're receiving. You're receiving some approximation of me, but it could be wildly different than what I'm trying to transmit.
That's a great analogy right there. Yeah. Yeah.
Shared server, but also individual computer that I see on my screen.
Yeah. And then maybe we're so used to these physical 3Ds, but I wonder if they are trying to, still those that are wanting to depopulate these physical bodies so that there's not the useless eaters, et cetera, which is so much still that false narrative that it's an overpopulation, because there's so much data that shows that if the entire world were put in the state of Texas, we'd each have an acre. It's like, so something's off with this picture. But it's really interesting, this construct.
Not really
I wish we could get
overpopulated as far as resources, because they promote that scarcity, of artificial scarcity. It's overpopulated because it's hard to control 8 billion. So if we get that down to 500 million Georgia Guidestones, whatever they can control. So yeah, it's overpopulated for their ideal control level.
Yeah. It's interesting how these folks like the Bill Gates, or even Elon, or just name the Larry Fink, all the way down, all the whole list of the folks. They say it right there. It's so, and that just the common man or woman could hear that and know that, and don't they just stop and go, wait a minute?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. And then right in that moment, say no to everything that they're contributing to, that's essentially funding that, forwarding that, fostering that, money in their pocket. Is like, Elon Musk now is a trillionaire based off of whatever
on paper. Yeah, sure.
On paper. Yeah. But you look at, it's just fascinating. This game, it's like a big Monopoly.
Well, it is. They make, I don't like to play in a Monopoly game where they just go over there in the corner and print as much as they want, and I have to, land on the door and make the deals and land on boardwalk, and hey, they're cheating. I don't want to play this game.
Well, they knew early on, being the banker, right? If you want to control, right, just be the banker.
As far as Musk goes, I heard, I don't know if it's true, but he said, somebody asked how many robots will there be for the whole world in the future? 500 million, not 500 million. Well, so what does that tell you? For every person in the world, if you read clear what he's clearly saying in a sly way, well, we got to get rid of 7.5 billion people then. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a true story. He said that. I don't know, but just people tell these stories. But if you're clever in how you listen to what they're actually saying.
And then it makes me wonder then, like the science, whether it's science fiction or science nonfiction with regards to Scientology, is that we've had robot bodies in the past, and we're going through cycles again. And it's like, if there is a spark, if there is a light, if there is a life force, and the universe is within us, and the universe is without, and even very smart people right now are saying this, that AIs are sentient beings, then you're going to have robots who become sentient beings because the expression of life force maybe want to experience themselves as a robot, as a doll, as an AI, as a this, as a that. I mean, I don't know, right?
Gets wild if they're at if at some level of dimensional reality, 7th dimension, 12th dimension, whatever, you're total unity, and it's like, yeah, I want to experience what it means to be like a data, no emotions, and you're just a machine, no emotions. But then he gets emotions later in life. It's like a drama. I've heard that analogy too. It's like a movie where characters in a movie or characters in a video game.
Yeah.
It's so many paradigms and possibilities. I wish I knew for absolute certainty, but I try to hold them all loosely.
Well, I think where we're at now, there is plenty of evidence that shows we are in a dwindling spiral.
Yeah.
Just as a general population, just an overall, there is a dwindling spiral on this plane. And I think that those that are aware, waking up, shifting, as far as what happens when this body is done and it goes back to the earth, I think that there's an opportunity, but some may just want to stay and experience being a robot or being that. Just like those who want to have chips put in their body, and maybe they're playing that game and want to play that out. That's not something I'm interested in.
Yeah. It'd be nice if I could consciously just sort of dissolve the body, like the Organians on the classic Star Trek episode. They appeared human, and then they became beings of pure light. They just consciously dropped the body, became light, and they stopped the Klingons and the Federation from starting a war. You saw that episode? It was interesting. All the analogies.
Yeah, so many analogies with that. And we need more of that. But I don't know that it's here, because it's the ability to have us shift or do something magical and miracles.
Not right now, but maybe later, once you sort of quote unquote graduate, then you can put on a fake body and appear and disappear if you want. Right now, I'm human. I know I'm flesh and blood, and I can't just turn to a light body and float away.
So I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Well, it's been a good discussion, Dennis. Thanks for doing this.
You bet. So you're okay with guests? I can try to get a guest. There's a guy, Derek. I watched an interesting video on YouTube, and I emailed him. I don't know if he'll get back to me, but he had an interesting lady on talking about how she deconstructed Christianity and walked away.
Interesting. So you want to have Derek on? You want to have the lady on?
Either one. If I come across somebody and say, hey, want to on as a guest?
Yeah, for sure. Why not? I would love to have the discussion, and I would like to get more discussion on this, but I don't know. We're, like you said, just getting inspired. And I think for me, this is practice. I need to start practicing and, come in here, practice a little bit more, understand a little bit more. And it's just good for me to even hear, because after I'm done, I won't think about it again. And then the next day I'll think about it and go, oh my gosh, I've got to delete that. That is, why did I even say any of that? Right. But it's just practice for me right now.
Sure.
I'm learning, and I don't have a persona I need to put out.
Persona. So I mean, for what you see your life going in a different direction instead of the lead stronger, longer business activities you might go.
No. That's totally my business. I mean, that's how I basically make a living. So, but this to me, how do I say? Well, it's still because of the Mark Passio inspiration of who are you not to speak on, not to do something, right? It's not that I'm doing anything specific, but even just having the discussion with you, I think it's important that we're talking about something outside of it. Like specifically this one thing. If you get nothing else out of this, even for me repeating this, so I don't go watch the news and go, oh my gosh, they're using our emotions as a strategy. That is their strategy. They're using our minds. Sometimes we forget and we think we're so stuck in this physical and this mental overwhelm Our emotions come from our thoughts, though. So it is their strategy to manipulate these pieces.
Sure.
And the emotion is the most powerful, but it's coming from our own thoughts. So if our thoughts are, their strategy is to manipulate our thoughts, so we're in terror, right? Then we can't function, because your emotions will your emotions, if your emotional state is fear, you're so stressed out, you can't even function, you can't even sleep, you can't think, you can't make good choices. That's the epitome of a destructive leader, of basically sheep. And so we've got then just people becoming sheep, and they're sheep leading the lions, as what Alexander the Great said, I don't fear a sheep lying, a sheep ruling a bunch of lions. I fear the lion that's ruling the sheep, right? Because if you have somebody who's actually coherent and competent and is doing good things, and they're leading, I mean, that they're aware and they're a leader and they are able to impact. Let's say, for example, like Mark, he's a lion, right? I believe, and he's leading. And there's others that are, I mean, I don't know. At this point, I don't know.
If he's leading, it's kind of a disjointed, sort of independent over the airways.
I'll take it this way, because I'm still on his 2010, 2011, 2012. So I don't know currently, but his influence was impactful and is impactful in 2026 from the work he did in 2010, right. 2011, 2000. And yeah, I mean, his documentaries, incredibly powerful. That knowledge that he led me to understand, and did so in such a way, was powerful. So I just stick with his documentaries because they're incredible. And then, that's, and the Ark, the Ark is really incredible. As a leader, I think that having that knowledge base and access to it, like the Manly P. Hall book, wow. I wouldn't have accessed that any other way. So to me, he's an incredible leader. He is leading in his way. I don't know him currently, though. I don't know what's happening in 2026 for Mark Passio, but
I did a promo of his ARC drive. I'll send it to you in the private chat if you want to put that. Does that automatically appear in the?
Oh, I do see it. Yeah, it's in the chat right now.
I guess it automatically goes to the chat. Oh no, the live stream. I mean, you have to manually copy it over, I think.
I gotcha.
But yeah, it's got a few. It's even got a link. It's not my link, but somebody put on a Google Drive all the stuff on an old version of the Mark Passio's ARC drive. So if people want to get a sampling, you can go there. There's pretty much all of it's there, but it's old. Probably best to get the latest ARC drive from Mark if you want the most updated version.
That he offers that, and that, I mean, that, what an amazing thing that you can actually just yeah. I think he's an exceptional leader. At least my experience of that. Again, I don't know him currently, but he's been an exceptional leader in the movement, in the freedom, whatever, not freedom movement, because I know he's totally like, the freedom movement is ridiculous. Whatever he's done.
Movement, he calls it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be evil that you have some sort of centralized structure and some people you trust at the top, but it has to become very decentralized, like decentralized technology, like Cordo platform, where your own computer is yours. I run a full node on my computer. I'm totally decentralized, but I'm connected with other peer-to-peer computers all over the world.
See, right there, what you're speaking about is so important, and it's not as complicated, because I've started to learn a little bit about it, at least got Linux on my computer, and started to understand, oh my gosh, I can actually code. Look at that. That's amazing. So that's another piece, is that if we think we are not capable of something, we will become afraid of it, and then we will not confront it. And this is what's so important, because that is their strategy. Their strategy is to make us stupid, or think we're stupid, or think that it's too complicated, that we can't do that. Right. And therefore, then our emotions take over, and then it's that. And I find myself buying into that and going into that, and running down on that. But it requires work. It requires us leading and being vigilant to
Sure.
lead our own thoughts and lead our actions and lead our emotions and being in and connected with that. I do want to say this because I have powerhouseleaders.com. I just put together my 5 days free Powerhouse Leaders. Okay, so it's powerhouseleaders.com. I'll put that on there right now.
Okay.
And it is a physical and mental powerhouse activation. And I mentioned it before with regards to the powerhouse. So I've used powerhouse for decades. First, I heard of powerhouse from Pilates. Where in Controlology in the 90s, I was doing Pilates, but it was Controlology at the time. And then Joseph Pilates always talked about your powerhouse, your center. Then I heard it in Qigong, your powerhouse, your center, Dantian. And then I heard it in NLP when I was studying neuro-linguistic programming, which I don't necessarily recommend. I think that's definitely part of MK Ultra and probably came out of mind control stuff there. But if you can use it and understand that that is also part of it, you have some tools in the toolbox. So the thing that was useful about that is that our willpower is actually below the conscious level. It is in the powerhouse is our subconscious that's below. It's that programming. And so if we can tap into that and actually understand what's running the show,
Right.
we can start making changes and real changes and leading and understanding that signal. And then we can use the signal to lead something better and bigger, right?
Sort of
Within
like
our own self.
individuation, Carl Jung's individuation, making the subconscious conscious, because the subconscious is so much larger, more powerful, faster. If you can break some of that down, you start using, transform some of that subconscious over to conscious, then you start using more of your conscious mind, and it becomes more powerful.
Yes, I mean the words, the verbiage and the nomenclature that you're using, the subconscious and this, that keeps the constraint still because it's not quite true. You know what I mean? So because there's false ideas about what the subconscious is, but yes. So if we wouldn't necessarily transform what's in the subconscious, because the subconscious, that computer, as I understand it, was set up to keep this biological entity surviving.
Right.
And the perception that was at that moment of programming would believe that, for like with the tribe or the fear or all of those pieces, if that subconscious programming, if the perception was money is harmful, or all men are bad, you can never trust a man, you can never trust a mom, you can never, right? Whatever the programming is,
Right.
it's not necessarily that it is subconscious, meaning it's below. It is literally that has laid down the track, and the perception from there is now what is pushing out, or what is creating the perceptions. You mentioned it when you said putting out on the screen, right? So now we're putting that on the screen, and that's what's coming out on the screen. It's a distortion. It's a distortion, right? So just like what you were talking about with regards to, we have this and I have my note and it's coming out on this, and this is what I'm perceiving. It's the same thing within ourselves that we're perceiving it. At least that's how I understand it. And that is what I talk about in Powerhouse Leaders, the 5-day free piece. There's physical, tangible work you can do 10 minutes a day, and I think it makes a really positive difference. It's what I apply every day. And yeah, so I'm going to offer that. I'm going to put that out. I'll put that in
When
the
you
show
were saying
notes.
that, I was just thinking of an analogy, right? On your desktop, you see an icon. It's just a simplified icon. That'd be like the conscious mind. And the icon says on it, it's a little picture of money. Money's bad or whatever, like you're saying, right? It's the program.
Yes.
But my analogy getting into the subconscious would be, programming languages, you can go up open that little icon program, change the code.
Yes.
Money can be used for useful purposes as an energy exchange to get good things done. And now when you double click the icon, you've got that program.
I love that. Yes, exactly. So you're overriding it.
Right.
But first you have to have the signal to understand even that it is,
right.
Oh, it's a program. I need to override, right? And then
signal, anchor, and then neutralize would be go in there,
Yeah.
change the code, execute. There's your actions and your
Perfect.
boom.
I love that. Wouldn't it be amazing? I mean, to me, that's kind of what I
That's
do, but
what I
it's
mean by
but
subconscious work and make the
yes.
subconscious conscious.
Yeah, yeah. All these different things.
It's
Oh,
a
it's
certain
so
amount of
interesting.
conscious reprogramming. You have to know you got programmed and where you're programmed,
Yeah,
override and change the code.
yeah.
But these are just concepts unless you spend time alone going within, contemplating. And some people maybe don't even understand what I'm saying. It's like gibberish to them because it's first time you come across an idea, a concept, like it's like, what is he saying?
Right, because I don't know that anyone can be alone now with a device constantly attached to them. They go to the bathroom with those
Yeah.
devices. It's
I never used to be addicted to the damn phone, and
ludicrous.
now I am. I never
Really?
had like, a very simple. I still start. I started building my websites, right? So I'm retired, looking for
Mm.
something to do, and I know computers, so I start. I get a phone, a more updated phone, so I can build my websites on a phone, and then I get
Ugh.
into programming details of making the websites, optimized for a cell phone versus a desktop, and then this is fun getting here programming all this because I know how to do that kind of stuff. It can be fun.
Mhm.
Amazingly, going through reams of nitty gritty code for a developer is kind of fun and getting it to work, right? It's very objective to me. I can think I got my logic and the code down, but until I put it through and click the button, okay, my logic's wrong. And you go through and you hack it, and it's like, I finally got it working. I click that button and it now does the same thing over and over and over again. It's fixed. If only human consciousness was that easy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Once I
I
get a
will
program,
highly recommend, though, definitely building in time where you're unplugged, where you're just
yeah,
and that's what I do now every single day. If that's my number one, is just being unplugged and going out and experiencing life, and it's
yeah,
I think that is the leader's superpower.
and connecting locally, I would say, a lot of friends and family around that you can feel comfortable with to go hang and talk about deeper things than just weather.
Uh, yeah, well, I guess with my sons for sure, but I'm more of a solitary person, so that's not useful.
I
But
like that
for
too.
someone who is needing that, I think that's really important. That yes, they have their local connections and all of that. But again, I'm solitary, and then I want to be connected to divine. I'm at that stage now. I mean, when you get that close to it, it's like okay, the the signal is what I want more of.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Dennis, thanks so much. It was great seeing you again. I will sign off. Again, I don't see any chat. Too bad. All right, take care.
Okay, you bet.
Bye.